What's up, guys? Welcome back to the review space, and today we are going to review last night's Monday Night Raw, okay, the 9th of January 2012. So let's do this. Okay, so the show begins with Kane. He comes into the ring and he cuts a promo. He's talking about hate, and he's talking about the hatred of the fans, and the fans are actually filled with hate, and the fact that John Cena represents what the fans aspire to be, and he represents the good, basically. But then when the fans boo John Cena and say that he sucks, he basically, throws it back at the fans and says, if you say that John Cena sucks, you're saying that you suck, because he's a reflection of what you can achieve. Basically, it was a very antagonizing promo. And Kane, really good promo. He knows how to cut a really good promo. Although, I did feel that, we've seen this Kane before. We've seen this back in 2010. When he became champion and he was cutting the same kind of weekly promos on SmackDown, and he was going on these long promos, and he was these long diatribes about hate and about... It felt very poetic, It felt very... almost like a dark poet, a dark promo cutter doing his thing, doing his best to be a heel, but almost a very somber nature, very dark atmosphere. Alright, so Cena interrupts. He doesn't say anything. He just fights it out backstage with Kane. They start brawling, they start fighting it out, basically a backstage brawl type of thing. And then Kane ends up disappearing, and John Cena's just like, yo, where'd he go? Alright. And then, next up we have Sheamus and Santino. It's a tag match against Jinder Mahal and Wade Barrett. I'm sizzling. I thought this was a, meh, I'm saying? It was a meh tag team match. I like the fact that Jinder Mahal was featured. I like that, it was a tag team match, something a little bit different between these four. And the fact that Santino's tagging with Sheamus, kind of an interesting tag match. This was, this was kind of your basic, average Raw tag match, where, kind of just a way to feature some of these guys who will be feuding, are feuding, and will be featured in the future. Sheamus, saying Sheamus is the next champion. I can see it. He's going to be the next top guy, really. He's going to be that next... They're going to go all the way with him. He's going to be the champion. The merchandise is going to be there. He's going to have the WrestleMania moments. You can tell that Sheamus is going to be that next big thing. Wade Barrett is there, too, in terms of heel. I think that he's got a lot of potential. But speaking of potential, how about Jinder Mahal? Jinder Mahal, in my opinion, has a lot of potential, too. I see a star in this guy. And if I were in charge of booking, Jinder Mahal would be, I would book him a lot stronger, and he would have the same kind of favor and kind of push that somebody like Alberto would have. This guy has a good look. He's got an interesting gimmick. It is kind of a stereotype, but at the same time, these type of gimmicks, these nationalistic type of gimmicks, they work. It plays to that ethnicity, that crowd, that country. And, they could really make a much better heel character out of Jinder Mahal. I think that if given a proper push, he could be a top, at the very least, a top heel. So, they need to really get working on that guy, because I see a lot of potential in Jinder. Alright, and next up, we have an inductee into the 2012 Hall of Fame, and his name is Edge. That's right, Mr. Copeland. The retired Edge, that's right, and he's inducted into the Hall of Fame. I think many of us have seen this coming, and, well deserved, I think, because Edge, he's been in a lot of matches, he's been multi-time world champion, WWE champion, and it's good timing, I think, in terms of being inducted. Why wait? Why wait 5, 6, 7, 10 years to induct him, right? Why not induct him when his name is still fresh and relevant to the current fans? Okay, so we have a backstage, very short segment, basically a silent segment pretty much, between Mason Ryan and The Miz. It seemed like The Miz was trying to get in favor of Mason Ryan, trying to get him to be a bodyguard of some kind, just asking for help or protection or whatever against R-Truth. So But it looks like Mason Ryan wasn't having any of it. He was just shaking his head like, get out of my face. Okay. Zack Ryder. We have a segment of Zack Ryder, and he's really paranoid over Kane, and he's just like really bugging out. He doesn't know, what to do, and he's really freaking out over Kane. And then he bumps into Eve. Okay, so I think Eve, she said something about having a match later on, and then he asked her out on a date, and then they'll do it after, but, after the match is over and stuff like that. And so Eve leaves she leaves the segment, and then Zack Ryder, he heads off as well, and then you can see Kane coming out of one of the doors, kind of just being a sneaky creeper type of thing. Alright. Next up, we have Daniel Bryan against Kofi Kingston. That's right, the world champion Daniel Bryan against one half of the tag team champions. Daniel Bryan, he easily defeats Kofi Kingston via submission. He gets him with a label lock and makes Kofi Kingston tap out just like that. Very quick match. I mean, it is what it is. Very quick. It was really just a way for Daniel to look somewhat strong over somebody. And, he defeats one half of the tag team champs. Kofi's, he basically put him over, kind of a jobber type of role kind of thing, where, Daniel just made Daniel look somewhat strong by beating somebody, a mid-carder. After this particular match, Big Show comes in, alright, Daniel Bryan was celebrating. He was doing his thing where he would stand on the side of the, the freaking, the fan barricade, and he would stand on top of that. He would do his celebration, almost very obnoxious, very full of himself, pretty much. Big Show interrupts. They both get in the ring. Big Show gets a microphone, and he starts talking about how, alright, we have a title match. Next SmackDown, it's going to be no DQ and no countout. Alright, so they have another title match. Daniel Bryan kind of looked a little bit unsure, like, whoa, snap, what I'm saying? Like, this is going to be real serious. But, he agrees to it and all that. So, it should be a very interesting match. I'm kind of hyped to see this. Let's see what happens, right? I mean, what's going to happen with Daniel Bryan? Is he going to turn heel? Is he going to turn full-fledged heel? What's going to happen? How is he going to defend his title? What's going to happen? Is he going to lose the title? Is Big Show going to be the next world champion? I guess we'll just have to find out next SmackDown. But I can't wait, because I am waiting for Daniel Bryan to turn heel. I want to see him as a villain. It would be quite interesting and a boost to his character. You see, the thing with me and Daniel Bryan, I don't see him more as people, people compare him to Chris Benoit. He's the next Chris Benoit. He's a technician who doesn't have a lot of charisma, but he gets, that intensity, and he's very well crafted in the ring, and very well, his match style, very technical. I see him more as a potential Kurt Angle. You see, Kurt Angle, very technical, but when he's a heel, and he's a really good heel, he's very obnoxious. He's got that very smug, very just irritating way about him. That very smug, just ridiculously, that grin on his face, and he just full of confidence. I can see that with Daniel Bryan. That pseudo jock technician, very smug, very self-serving type of guy. Very he just doesn't. He's so high on himself and his technical abilities. He's so pretentious that everybody just loves to hate him. So I can see that with Daniel Bryan. Alright, next up, what we got? Oh, snap! We got somebody debuting after many, many weeks. Felt like a month and a half of build-up, of waiting. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, we have, from Planet Funk, the funkasaurus, Brodus Clay. Oh, snap! And this was, I can assure you, the funkiest, most funktastic, funkdoobiest gimmick since Flash Funk. Ladies and gentlemen, Brodus Clay against Curt Hawkins. Well, it was basically a squash match, and the way that Brodus Clay is, his gimmick, and might I say, gimmick of the year? Could this be the best new gimmick of the year? He's got this red attire, you know, like a jumpsuit, and he's got the fedora, kind of like an old school, like 80s Run DMC type of suit and attire. He's got this funky music about something about yo mama or needing yo mama, you gotta catch yo mama or something like that. It was just really funk-laced, very funky, you know what I'm saying? And he's got a couple of dancers, couple of funk dancers with him, and, you know, female dancers basically, and they're doing their thing, they're dancing in the ring. It was almost reminiscent of like a mix between, I would say, the Godfather Light. And I say Godfather Light because Godfather was more rated M, you know, non-PG, you know, more for adult audiences with his, you know, his female entourage. You know what I'm saying? This time it's more of a funky vibe, and it's more fun. You know, it's more of a fun PG kind of gimmick where Brodus Clay is dancing. It's like a mix between Godfather and Rikishi. You know, Rikishi back in the Too Cool era where Rikishi would dance. You know. That style, you know, that dancing, that high energy, very very fun type of gimmick. I actually enjoyed it. It was something different, definitely unexpected. I don't think anybody expected Brodus Clay to come up with this gimmick. But you know what I'm saying? As soon as the announcer, I'm forgetting his name. What's his name? Justin Roberts or something like that. The announcer, he said funkasaurus from Planet Funk. I was like, I knew it was gonna be some kind of funky, you know, like gimmick like that kind of wacky, cartoonish gimmick, and maybe a little bit of Dusty Rhodes too. You know, kind of his body size, and you know how Dusty Rhodes would gyrate and he would dance. It kind of reminded me of that. So a mix between Dusty Rhodes, Godfather, and Rikishi. So it kind of an interesting gimmick. I mean, Brodus Clay, man. Brodus Clay seemed enthusiastic. It seemed like he's really into this gimmick. He wants this to pull this off. He wants this to succeed. And you know what? If Brodus Clay is talented enough, and if he's good enough to pull this off, he can make it work. You know what I mean? I think that a lot of people have reservations about this gimmick. A lot of fans are probably like, oh, well, I expected him to be a monster, a dominating type of guy who was just obliterating everything in his path, you know, like a monster gimmick. And then he comes out to this wacky dancing type of gimmick, and I mean, I think that a lot of fans are kind of still iffy about it, like, they're not sure. Give it time, you know. Give this gimmick some time. Don't just like shrug it off or brush it off like, oh, this gimmick sucks, it's garbage, you know, what a lame gimmick. I liked it because it was a little bit different, and you know, it reminded me of certain gimmicks from the past, but it was almost like a new style of those gimmicks, you know, something a little bit fresh and something different from the current product where everybody looks the same, everybody's generic with the same haircut and body types, the same type of model looking generic type of wrestlers from OVW and FCW. At least this guy, at least Brodus Clay, has a flashy type of gimmick. It's fun. You know, he's got a suit and everything, you know, so I like it. You know, at the very least, give it a chance. Alright, so next up we have Jack Swagger against CM Punk. Alright, I thought this was a good back and forth match. This was a really well, you know, well executed match. I think that Jack Swagger is one of the best workers in the WWE. I have no idea why they're not pushing him at all. I know he's a former world champ, but he hasn't been pushed since so long ago. It feels like it's been 2 years since he's really gotten a big push. And he's great, man. He delivers a great match. He's very athletic. You know, I'm a Jack Swagger mark, you know, for a reason. He's really good in the ring. He delivers a good match pretty much every time I see him. Oh, let's see. Punk? No, okay, Punk won. He won this match, as you can expect. He's the WWE champion, but it was kind of a questionable win. What happened was he had Jack Swagger on the floor, and then he pinned him kind of, and then the referee counted 1, 2, and as right before he got the 3, Jack Swagger actually got his shoulder up, but it was kind of a it looked like a botch, actually. The referee still counted 3, and so CM Punk got the win. I thought it was a BS win. I thought it was clearly a non-legit win. It was obviously not the case. Jack Swagger, he kicked out of this pin, so I have no idea. It felt intentional though, because Cole and the King, they were talking about it a lot, and then they showed replays and everything, and they focused on how it was an error and a mistake, and how John Laurinaitis, you know what I'm saying, he's going to be the referee for the title match, and it's going to be, there's going to be no error, you know, the lesser chance of error, because John Laurinaitis is going to referee it instead of just the normal average referee who could make a mistake like that. I mean, I don't know. This, you know, CM Punk winning in a very questionable way, it still didn't feel like a real win. You know, Jack Swagger got his shoulder up. It was very, very strange. Was it intentional? Probably. Was it a botch? Maybe. But either way, it was just kind of weird. Okay, what else we got? Oh, so we another inductee to the Hall of Fame 2012. We got the 4 horsemen, you know, sizzling. So you're talking about Ric Flair, Tully Blanchard, Barry Windham, and the Enforcer. You know what I'm saying? Arn Anderson. What can I say? I mean, I never grew up on that era. I never watched wrestling when the 4 horsemen were at their peak, which I think was probably like the mid-late 80s, you know, when Ric Flair was red hot, and, you know, that stable was really, they had a lot of success. I saw them a little bit at WCW when I started watching WCW in the mid-late 90s, but by then they were kind of overshadowed by other, you know, factions like the NWO, so it is what it is. They're supposed to be legends, so, and I do, you know, Barry Windham, I've seen some of his matches, he's a pretty damn good wrestler, so. Okay, so next up we have Ricardo Rodriguez. He's basically forced by Miz to call out R-Truth. Okay, so now Ricardo's in the ring, and he's talking smack to R-Truth, very reluctant, you know, it seemed like he didn't really want to do it. R-Truth comes out, and then they have a really funny segment in the ring where R-Truth is doing his crazy bit, little Jimmy this and that, little Jimmy, you know what I'm saying, little Jimmy doesn't like you. It was very humorous. I thought it was funny. R-Truth is hilarious. You know, he really pulls off this crazy, insane man gimmick, you know, this kind of psychopathic, like kind of like a crackhead kind of gimmick. Like his gimmick reminds me of Samuel Jackson from, what was that movie where he played a crackhead? I'm forgetting it. Was it Jungle Fever? I think it was Jungle Fever, where he played a crazy dude. Yeah, I kind of like that, you know what I'm saying? It reminds me of that crazy, wacky character. And it was a good segment. Ricardo, he started singing La Cucaracha, and it seemed like he might be getting along with R-Truth, and R-Truth was, yeah, man, it's all about the good, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I turned a new leaf. But then he got ticked off because it was kind of awkward. Ricardo, he dropped R-Truth's mic, but it just looked weird. Like it looked like he was about to shake his hand, or he put his hand forward, and then R-Truth dropped his mic. So, and then R-Truth was like, he started getting angry. He hits him with his finisher, but then the Miz attacks R-Truth from behind. And it looked like the Miz was, you know what I'm saying, getting some revenge on R-Truth, but then R-Truth starts getting at him back, starts fighting back, and then eventually the Miz starts running off, you know what I'm saying? He was like, oh, snap! And then he runs away. R-Truth looks really ticked off, so this feud is obviously not over. We might see a match at the Royal Rumble. I can see a match at Royal Rumble, R-Truth versus the Miz. It's some kind of grudge match, you know, maybe some stipulation. Okay. Let's see what else we have. Okay, so next up we have, Chris Jericho's segment. Break the walls down. Well, so Chris Jericho returns. Okay. He gets into the ring. He starts placating to the crowd as his usual bit. He did it last week. He did the same exact thing this week. Didn't say a word. He pointed to the fans, get the fans' reactions. At first, the fans were cheering. Just like last week, they were cheering, they were happy, yay, Chris Jericho. But then Chris Jericho didn't say anything again. And then that was it. It looked like he started tearing up. He looks like he's crying. You know, he had this really, this crying, you know, look on his face. This sad, really miserable look on his face. Like he was just crying. This, you know, this actor pretend cry. Like, oh, boo-hoo. And then that's it. He drops the mic and he leaves. And then the crowd starts kind of booing as again. So what do I mean, people, was anybody surprised with this? I knew he was going to do this because it's going to be consistent. You know, I can see a pattern here. He's going to do this probably again next week, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does it for the next 4 weeks. Seriously. But the thing is that the fans are kind of dumb, you know what I'm saying? It amazes me how stupid some of these fans are, that they're gonna buy into this and cheer him, you know what I mean? He already did this the first week. Why would you expect him to be different the following week? Like, it just amazes me how the fans would cheer him and then kind of boo him after he's not saying anything. Like, I expected this. So it's nothing new. It didn't surprise me. And I was like, yeah, obviously he's not going to say anything because this is his gimmick now. This is what he's doing. He's doing this to antagonize the fans. But the thing is, the fans are too dumb to realize that Jericho is clearly doing this on purpose. So, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, the fans are a little too dumb sometimes to pick up on it. Or maybe like they just get caught up in the moment and then they cheer because they're in the arena and then they feel the need to cheer. Like if I had been there, if I had been at the arena, I wouldn't have said anything. I wouldn't have cheered at all. I had just been like with my arms crossed, kind of grinning to myself, like, yeah, this is awesome because Chris Jericho's a total heel. You know, he's not gonna say anything. You know what I mean? Like he's not gonna say anything. That's it. You know, he left the ring and you know he got boos again. Okay, so the final match of the night was John Cena against Dolph Ziggler. Oh well, this was kind of a match. You know, it didn't really stand out too much. Throughout the rest of the night, pretty much the night, we had Zack Ryder and Eve, and Zack Ryder and Eve they were fleeing the arena. They were trying to get away from Kane because I think I forgot to mention that Eve was supposed to have a scheduled match, but then her opponent didn't show up. It was actually Kane's music started playing, and then you know what I'm saying, and so she got scared, and then Zack Ryder got her, and then they tried getting out of the arena, and they went to a car, and he put Eve in a car. Zack Ryder put Eve in a car. He's like, stay there. But then one of the tires was slashed, and so he tried to replace the tire with another, a spare tire. And so this was the time when John Cena and Dolph Ziggler were having a match. So this was happening at the same time. Long story short, Kane comes in. He starts beating on Zack Ryder. He starts beating him up outside, where the car was. And then he chokeslammed him to a lower floor. And that's the end of Zack Ryder, it seems. And then John Cena, he sees this on a Titantron, and he goes after, he goes backstage, goes outside, and he goes after Kane. But then Kane gets him, you know what I'm saying, with a choke to the face, I guess, some kind of, a choke to the mouth. And then so the episode ends with Kane standing over both Zack Ryder and John Cena, both kind of unconscious. So, and that was pretty much it. Okay, this Raw, it was okay Raw, I kind of thought it was alright. Decent Raw. I like the Punk Swagger match. I thought it was a good back and forth. I like the R-Truth segment with Ricardo. The 2012 inductees to Hall of Fame, very cool to have those guys, especially Edge. It was just, it was an okay Raw, I mean, it did some things to further some storylines, and the Brodus Clay, that's the one that really kind of stood out. Brodus Clay coming in as the Funkasaurus, I thought that was the highlight of the night. I enjoyed it. It was very interesting. So, Brodus Clay, baby. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I mean, that's it. I mean, I can't really say too much now because I think that there's still a lot of questions. You know, what's going to happen in the future? What's going to happen in the following weeks? You know, like, I don't want to be too invested in these feuds and you know, in some of these segments, because I know that after Royal Rumble a lot of the stuff is going to change. It's not going to be, you know, Kane is probably not going to be after Cena, you know what I mean? Their feud is going to be dropped, you know, it's going to be done. It's going to be, they're going to go home with a feud. Zack Ryder is probably going to move on to something else. You know, CM Punk is going to move on to something else, you know. So Daniel Bryan, you know, if he's still the champion, he's going to move on from the Big Show and all that stuff. So I don't feel compelled to fully invest, you know, too much into these episodes. You just kind of have to wait for the pay-per-views to come out. So that's it for this review of WWE Raw, 9th of January, 2012. And that's it. Let me know what y'all thought of this particular episode in the comment section below. And check out the rest of the channel. Comment, rate, subscribe. And until next time, ciao!